We're looking into disappearances, some recent, others dating back several years.
What do you need?
Small team. The casting is fantastic. Each person is very different to the next. Everybody's got their own rhythm and personality and color, which is exactly what you want, especially for a thriller. He's playing games.
It's just so enjoyable to see all these high-profile names on a list and actually seeing them in person as well. It's quite mind-blowing.
Something that Thomas does brilliantly is cast for the specific roles. If you put all these characters in front of sort of a light, everyone has their own silhouette. Everyone has their own character, their way of standing, their way of walking, their height. Everyone, you can pick them out.
Harry Hull.
Harry Hull is a laconic and very gifted policeman. From the very beginning, you know, we had Michael in mind for this role.
Harry's very sensitive and very vulnerable, which makes him much more interesting than a hard-boiled officer. The reason why Thomas really wanted to have Michael is partly because of that he is vulnerable and can show sort of deeper and inner emotions with his enormous acting ability.
He's very naked in what he does. The lack of vanity you could see in his work. He's very open-minded to stuff, even though his intuition is to say no.
Ellie Quayle, tell me.
Michael is very real. His way of discussing scenes with Thomas, his way of finding his character, it feels authentic.
Right, here we go. He's so interested in making the best out of every scene all the time. I'm learning so much about acting and the work and the process just by watching him.
I'm Katrina Bratt.
Harry Hull.
I know who you are. We actually studied your cases at the academy.
I didn't know they date back that far.
Rebecca Ferguson, who's the first actor we offered the role to. And when they met and talked about this role, it was very clear to Thomas how much Rebecca wanted to do this, and I think Thomas felt, without a doubt, that this is an actor that he wanted.
Are you, Dion?
She's great. She's good fun and sort of easygoing, so that's a really nice mix. She is very passionate about acting. You can see that, you know, she really cares about it, and so it lends very nicely to her character.
Two persons sitting here while the camera is here, so we get a bit closer into his eye line. And
She is a very passionate actress. She's Swedish too, which is, you know, we have our secret language, which I couldn't share with the English-speaking actors, so to say. But it's been fantastic to work with her.
What's lovely is to sit with Michael and Thomas, and you laugh, and you have coffee or tea, and you discuss the scene, or you're in detail sort of walking through.
Watching Michael and Rebecca inhabit these characters and watching that relationship between them develop is a big part of what will make this movie interesting.
It's down to chemistry, you know. Sometimes you just have a chemistry with somebody, and that's something you can never really plan for, or it's something that, you know, it's there, it's not. And we've definitely got a very good chemistry.
I miss you.
Charlotte Gainsbourg is just such an ideal actor for that particular role. She's totally gorgeous. She's totally original. She's a very graceful actress, and I think the triangle of her, Rebecca, and Michael works tremendously well. I mean, why would you ever stop being in love with Charlotte Gainsbourg?
It seemed as soon as we started working together that we had a past and a future. And that's always great in storytelling, when we're coming from somewhere and hopefully we're going somewhere, you know, where when a film ends, you imagine the characters continuing. It isn't just the letter. He reported her missing before he killed her.
We've got actors of enormous quality for tiny, tiny little roles. And I think they have all done it because they want to work with Thomas Alfredson because of the script and because of the existing material.
I believe in my heart. Tonight, Oslo has already won.
JK as Artist Stoop. It's just exciting. He throws himself into the role and out of it very easily. I now cannot see anyone else.
I got to work with Val Kilmer and loved that Thomas cast him as Rafto. I think he's one of our greats, and any film is going to be enriched by his presence.
Sorry I'm late, honey.
It's great to see so many Scandinavian actors getting an opportunity to work in an English-speaking film like this.
Action. Thomas said from the beginning, I want Jonas in this film, and I can completely see why.
Jonas has put so many different colours and shades into him. We've done all of our scenes now together. The nuance that he uses, the rhythms, the inflection. It's been a lot of fun watching him.
I know why you blame her.
Sophia Eileen, we've got her for an incredibly small part, incredibly small but incredibly meaningful part. We offered her this part and she just, without question, just immediately said yes, of course. And it's fantastic.
Of course I want to work with Thomas again. Even if I was to be an extra in his film, I would say yes. He's so passionate about telling stories and watching humans, what we are doing to each other and to ourselves.
Thomas has been on my favourite director lists since I sort of got into film. I can't believe I'm doing this with him. And seeing him in action, seeing him work, it's heaven.
It's you approaching here and you turning up in the background.
It's a very free-flowing, loose experience, but it's also very precise.
A bit closer to your face.
We spend time talking about the scene. Each of us has an opportunity to put some colour or shading in the scene or the characters. So we've worked very closely together.
It's really easy when you're on set just to see the amount of detail that he will go into to make sure everything is right. And I think that is why he is such a renowned artist almost, because, you know, he looks at the fine details.
When you have a director who is just phenomenally brilliant, it doesn't matter the size of role, because you know that you will be able to create something wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm Katrine Bratt. I transferred from Missing Persons.
Harry Hole.
I know who you are. You're up there with the legends.
When I read the script, I really liked it. Started to introduce myself to the books and to Jo Nesbo's Harry Hole and the world that he sort of occupies, and I've loved them.
I can't keep covering for you.
You mentioned the name Nesbo around Oslo, and you know, he's a fixture here.
Harry Hole came to me in 1997 on a plane from Oslo to Sydney. This really tall, typically Scandinavian guy. Didn't speak much. He was a loner, and he had this blue eyes. That was like my first visual image of him. When I was a kid, me and my brother, we used to go to my grandmother for holidays. She would always say that if you're not home and in bed by 8 o'clock, then Harry Hole will come get you. Hole was the local police officer, and I never saw him, but I always imagined this big, scary guy that was coming to get us. So it was a combination of that, and also there was Harry was the name of our local soccer hero in the town where I grew up, and so I combined their names.
It's an iconic character, a male detective. One can quite easily fall into cliché, because you've got a standard character who's a policeman solving a crime. What we've tried to do is make the Harry Hole in our film, as he is in the book, unpredictable.
That is what, to me, make him interesting as a character, is that you have all these contradictions. He cares for those who are close to him, but he doesn't want anyone to be close to him. His experience in life is that those people that he has loved, they will be taken away from him. The The Snowman was our 7th book in the series. It has a horror element that previous books probably didn't have.
It's a best-selling serial killer thriller, and Thomas Alfredson is an incredibly original director, which means you can turn it into something unexpected. All those qualities made it feel like a really good fit.
I was very happy when I understood that the way the producers saw this movie was the same way that I saw the movie. They chose a director who is a storyteller in his own right, and who isn't there just to give a version of the book, but to use the book as input for his story. And as a storyteller myself, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I don't know how many times I've seen a film that is exactly the same as a book. I mean, that's hard. Or you decide to actually step away from it, kind of a bit. And we are staying as true to the story we want to tell as possible. Expectations are high. People are waiting to see their version of Harry Hole, but your version won't be my version. My version won't be someone else's version. And all we can do is be as honest as we can be to character and to the script. There's always a balance of script and book.
Me trusting Thomas made it very easy for me to say that you can't do anything to the book. The book is there. Now it's your turn. Take these pages that I've written, use them as hopefully helpful input for a story that you want to tell, and shoot a good movie.
A woman vanished last night. We just found the body. He calls himself the Snowman Killer. He's completely insane.
Matthias is a very nice guy, intelligent, reliable. He's almost too perfect to be true.
They're the ones you always got to be careful of, I suppose. We get to see Matthias from a young age as a boy, and what becomes of the boy in terms of the making of a serial killer. There is a very clear path that he follows, and one can understand where his troubles come from and his obsessions.
I'm thinking that he's going after women that he disapproves of.
He is seriously damaged by this childhood trauma. When the car goes through the ice, one part of Matthias's life stops there. So one part of Matthias is always going to be 10 or 11 years old when this trauma happened. Although the grown-up Matthias is controlling the situation, I think it is the young Matthias who is in charge. I think he needs to be this very, neat and perfect about everything else in his life. Because when you have that chaos as one part of yourself, you really need to have a good order of everything else.
He's somebody that has their ties perfectly lined out in a perfect tie drawer, and his nails are perfectly sort of manicured.
Thomas gave me a very specific idea as to try to make him look as normal as possible with a slight oddity. So I wanted to try and create a character that was meticulous. All his clothing generally has straight edges to it. His ties are very straight, his shirts, collars are very straight. When you look at him, his body shape is very neat, he's very straight up and down. And I wanted to reflect that in his clothing that was slightly odd.
Jonas Karlsson is our best male actor besides Stellan Skarsgård. He has a method of really moving into the characters, finding the soul of the characters.
It's quite amazing what he does in the film. He sort of changes from one side to the other quite seamlessly, and I think this scene when he's visiting Raquel in the kitchen in the end is a masterpiece.
Last question. This boy, does his mother deserve to live? The tricky thing here is that the audience shouldn't know, but on the other hand, it can't be just out of the blue. Several scenes we have made in different versions. For instance, I'm taking a photo with my smartphone on Rebecca's car, and from one perspective it could look like I'm just texting, but from another perspective you could really show that I'm taking a photo.
You sort of get slight ripples of unease about the character all the way through, but you keep having to check yourself in case it's you who's just responding to the fact that he's not the charismatic, rugged, handsome Michael Fassbender. And it's played very deliberately like that, and I have to say I think it's a really remarkable performance.
I didn't think you'd find me.
Film is set in real places, in Oslo, in Bergen. Thomas Alfredson said, I will do this project, but I need to do it in Scandinavia, where it's set and written.
I think it always was a priority for Thomas, and because it's intrinsic to the story, it was for the writer. There's a reason that he's put the story of the snowman here. He's done a lot of the work for you. Why try and change it?
Cut. Beautiful. Thank you.
The Norwegian landscape is something I wanted to have as almost like a character of its own in the film. It's never dull or not interesting. It's always there, present. So I wanted to bring that to the film too.
Today we're in Molde, which is on the west coast of Norway, and we're in a place called the Atlantic Road, and it's a very dramatic bit of road.
We have an opening and closing sequence which are pretty spectacular. And Thomas always said, I would like to shoot up in Atlantic Road. The one thing one needs to know about Atlantic Road, which is the first thing I know about Atlantic Road, which is it's where all the car commercials are set. Everybody who makes a car commercial at some point goes up to Atlantic Road because it's the most unbelievably convoluted road.
We're filming with something called a Russian arm, which is a big crane that's attached to the top of a Mercedes-Benz, and it allows you to race up and down, get nice car shots. Cars drive up very extreme angle on a bridge that curves round and things like that, so it just looks fantastic. The second unit is a lot of boy racer stuff. It's all the sort of stuff where you have all the big equipment and get to do all the fun shots, and it's the bit that when the main unit get to see it, they're always a bit jealous because you get to play with all the toys.
The snow is so key, obviously, just visually. Places like Bergen and Rjukan, they're beautiful, you know, so you're going there for the scenery and the mountains.
We are 5 kilometers away from Rjukan city, up in 850 meters above sea level, a place called Vemork. And I'm the power plant manager of the power plants here in this valley.
We're going to talk about our lovely circular structure today.
We need to inform you what's the issues due to safety when you're in the chamber.
It's equivalent to 140,000 pints per second if they have to open out the valves. That's quite a lot of water coming through. It makes a horrendous noise. It lasts for 1 minute. They're shutting down 5 power plants all through Rjukan, so it's a major thing. We have it shut down from 11 till 2. 2 o'clock, it's over.
We were looking for an island with a hut for one of the storylines, and we were brought to this island, and when we came across this, we thought this is the perfect hut for the story.
It's stunning. It's hard to get to, but as you can see, it's an amazing piece of Norway.
It's an absolutely beautiful place, and I had expected it would be all about the permissions to be able to walk over all of this and be in this area. But actually that was quite easy. People really understood that we wanted to be here, and they gave us permission immediately. It wasn't too difficult.
A bit quicker.
When we came, it was fairly benign because it was March and it seemed quite easy at the time. But since then, it's been, 30 humpers to bring all the equipment. 3/4 of our crew have actually walked for 40 minutes to get here. Most of the equipment have come by helicopter. The actors have been helicoptered in. It's been quite a practical challenge.
We're now starting our move out of here. So basically, equipment-wise, we've got an empty container there. I'm going to bring another container. We've got all our lovely humpers to help with any equipment that has to go with us.
It's quite inaccessible. Getting gear in, getting people in, and the fact that you're so exposed to the weather was the big fear and the big challenge.
On days like this, people are so up for the challenge. This is why we became filmmakers.
It has been really challenging. We have had experiences of shooting in -17, complete whiteouts up a mountain for 2 days, but we have actually achieved some extraordinary, exquisite landscapes. To be able to do that is just really extraordinary. The Norwegians, the city of Oslo, the city of Bergen have made it so easy for us.
The backup we had in Oslo was fantastic, coming down to blocking streets and giving us parking space, and they were really, really supportive.
I find that the environment equally as important as the characters to be able to tell their story. I'm so happy that we are shooting here.
The contrast between nice and still little Oslo and this very, very dramatic landscapes with the high mountains and everything, I think that works very well with this movie.
It's a very rich film in terms of the visual experience, that's for sure.
When you're walking on an ice lake, it really does feel precarious. There's something constantly so strange about being on a frozen lake. At the beginning, a car goes through, and at the end, a man goes through. And we replay the beginning at the end.
The opening sequence is a very complicated jigsaw to put together and involves a lot of people with something that's just a couple of minutes.
All those scenes were really, really difficult to shoot because of the amount of snow, of course, but also difficulties bringing electricity and everything else in those remote locations. It's really hard work.
So the car will travel at that speed again now, so at faster speed.
We're shooting a part of the opening sequence of the film where a car comes off the road, drives through a white field of snow and then spins and stops. It's a very dramatic scene, and it is one of these shots that actually has to be built in post-production, so we're getting lots of elements to build up that shot, and then some very clever guys in London put it all back together.